Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're looking at this, which is the MSK-1 multi-scenario knife from Ultimate Survival Tips. So I'm going to put this thing right through the paces. We'll show you all the features and bells and whistles of it, and then we'll spend a little bit of time at the end talking about some of the controversy around this knife and how I think you should handle that. If you want the backstory on this knife, feel free to check out the link I have below, which will take you over to the website where you can pick up one of these knives. And basically, David from Ultimate Survival Tips and I became friends probably 4 or 5 years ago. And as I was talking to him, he started to tell me about this knife. It was built the way that he would want a survival knife to be built. And so he designed it in conjunction with Jeff Freeman from Freeman Outdoors and came up with this. So obviously the best way to test the knife is to put it through the paces, so let's do that. We'll start off here with some maple and just see if we can get some feathers off this thing. I always think feathering is a kind of an interesting test for a knife just because it is, it does give you a sense if you can do some more of that detail work with it, but I make plenty of fires without using feather sticks, so it's not the only test, but it'll start giving you some information about, the knife and how it feels in hand. So as you can see, I'm choked back on the handle just using a normal hammer grip. Let me move my finger up to the choil here and try that. And flip to the other side. See if I can get a better, there we go. That's probably gonna work better. So I haven't used this knife a ton, but you can definitely see it'll feather, and I'll roll in some other footage here in a moment just so you can see that, yeah, between this one and the neck knife, which is very similar, just a very small version of this basically. I mean, it's different in some ways, but it looks similar. And yeah, so both those knives are going to do a pretty good job at making some feathers. All right, let's test out the tip strength here and stab it into this piece of wood. So it is D2 for your tool steel. This is, or for your steel. This stump is it's definitely wet because it's been outside, but it's not particularly rotted, I would say. It's a little bit soft, as you can see, but it's definitely not totally rotted out. I think the edges are probably in better shape. So, it seems to be holding up. I'm going to destroy my stump here that I use for various things, but seems to be holding up. Yeah, it's definitely got some moisture in the stump here though. Yeah, that tip looks pretty good. I mean, it's going in I don't know, how far is that? Let's see here. I would say from the tip down to there, you're looking at about 1 inch. So it's definitely, digging into the stump. I'm generally not a person who would pry with a knife unless it's a very extreme scenario. So I would say it's doing just fine. Okay, I'm going to choke back on the handle a little bit and do some chopping here. I am doing this without a lanyard, so if I had a lanyard around my wrist, obviously I could let it swing a little bit more freely, but so there you go, through a piece of wood that's probably, I would say, probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches across. That piece of wood right there. All right, this first piece of wood, I don't even know what type of wood it is, but we're looking at about 2 inches across. Pretty easy there. Same there. This next piece of wood I'm pretty sure is maple here, so definitely a harder wood. But again, it seems to be doing okay. Gotta re-angle this. So one of the things to be aware of is due to the size of your blade, since it's not super long, it's yeah, you just gotta be aware of that when you're trying to baton, the way you set the blade up. So there's a little bit of a softer wood, then a harder wood like maple. And that's no problem there. Now this is a piece of firewood I bought at the local store just to have some wood. So I'm gonna go across the widest part, which is, I mean, there's about 3/4 of an inch left on the tip of the blade there. So it's definitely putting the MSK-1 to its test as far as the length of the blade for batoning. So yeah, that's definitely and this thing is very knotty, so N-O-K-N-O-T-T-Y, not N-A-U-G-H-T-Y. So now that I'm into the wood, I'm going to try to have more of the tip exposed so I can baton on it. And there we go. So that'll get through and then split it. And you probably see I'm being pretty aggressive with this thing. I'm dropping this and not being particularly kind to it because I want to be aggressive with it because it's supposed to be a pretty extreme use knife. The swedge up at the top is probably going to beat your baton up a bit. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, it's definitely beating the baton up at least a little bit. This dried wood that I got at the store is definitely the hardest wood to baton so far. Well, there you go. As I say that, it goes right through. So yeah, batoning, it seems to do the job as well. In this initial use, it's done all the tasks well that I put in front of it. One of the things that makes this knife unique is that it has a survival kit inside the handle. Now the survival kit was built between Divet from Ultimate Survival Tips and Wazoo Survival Gear. And I mean, like, I just like Wazoo. There has not been a single thing they've put out that I've been like, I really don't like that. I've got some preferences amongst their gear, but I generally, I mean, they get a thumbs up from me just across the board when they create gear because it has a good use. If you have a specific application and that applies, they just make good gear. So that being said, they helped in conjunction with David to build the kit that's inside the handle here. And if you could see on this side, basically looks like you would take a flathead screwdriver, but you can use a quarter, you can use part of a button, you could use a washer if you just attach it to a lanyard, and you open up the handle, and inside there's the survival kit. So let me open this up and show you what that kit looks like inside. One thing I want to show you is that as I'm taking the handle apart, you can see we've got the bow drill divot right there. And so if you've never used a manufactured bow drill divot or something other than like a wooden handhold out in the woods, something that you made from being out in the woods, it makes a huge difference to actually have the bow drill divot. You wouldn't think so, but it just makes the whole process much easier. So that's built right into the handle, and it's placed nicely in the handle. Sometimes it's in a weird place. It's metal, so it's not going to burn out the handle. And the way the knife it feels in hand, it's balanced. Like they have one of these, I think, in the micarta handle on the Elchete from Tops, which I love the Elchete, but it's definitely going to be like way blade heavy as you're trying to hold the handle and use the bow drill divot. But this is centered, and yeah, it's easy. It's where it should be, I think, in a handle if you're going to put a bow drill divot in there. So that's what it looks like when you take the first handle off. You can see those nice two big storage spaces. But again, because this is 1/4 inch thick steel, it's not like you have a really flimsy handle and then a lot of metal missing. You could store your survival kit in there. So when David asked me if I wanted to review this, I said, yeah, definitely. He sent me the survival kit separately because it's easier to lay out and show you all the gear that's actually in the kit, but all the gear that's in the bag from Wazoo can fit nicely into the handle. So let me actually show you the kit now. So here's a look at the kit. It says Ultimate Survival Tips MSK-1 Survival Kit by Wazoo Survival Gear. Comes in this very small bag, and it lists all the gear on the back there, but let me just show you what's inside by dumping it into my hand. When I first started working with Wazoo Survival Gear a handful of years ago, I said, man, if you guys could get a way to carry water in your survival kits, particularly the bracelets, that'd be awesome. And they have done that. So we've got 2 Ranger bands, which will burn, as well as being you know, something to secure something else with. We got some cordage here, and I'll give you the exact length in a minute. We've got 2 little, these are fire starters and also disinfectant. So, you know, if you get a cut, you can open these up and rub it on the cut to make sure that it doesn't get infected. And if you hit this with a spark, it'll burn, which I will show you in a moment. Then we've got the water storage bag. Then we've got the fire steel inside the kit. And then we also have your fishing kit. So this has, or it's more than a fishing kit. We've got a bunch of, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, looks like 3 or 4 small hooks in there. We have 3 lead weights. We have 2 safety pins, and we have a needle as well. So there's the info on the back. Let me read it to you officially. So we have the water bag. That's 32 ounces, a 1 liter capacity. It's heat resistant. It's a food grade bag. We have the mini fire steel, which is 1.5 inches long and 0.18 inches in diameter. The hardware, we have 3 fish hooks, 3 split shot weights, 2 brass safety pins, and 1 magnetized needle. So it's not just a needle, it's magnetized as well. The Ranger bands, it says 3 small bands. And we have the fire and tinder. They're individual fat packs, triple antibiotic, topical pain reliever, and a cotton tinder. There's also the fishing line, which is 20 feet of that, and then there's 50-pound test braided line as well, so even more than I initially shared. So that's all the gear that you get in the kit, and the kit goes into the handle. Now, one of the things, if you haven't heard about this knife or seen the details on it before, is that there's lots of different ways to set it up. So you can get it at a basic level, you can get it totally geeked out. They do have a couple different options for handles. So this is the orange, and then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to call the colors. I'm going to call this gray, but it's got definitely a bit of a green tinge, but it looks kind of like a grayish green. And then this is more of your tan, but it's tan with a little bit of kind of a greenish, grayish tinge as well. So you can see between the two, this one's darker, that one's lighter, and then definitely orange. So you got 3 different options for the handles, however you want to set them up. If you want to get multiple sets, you can do that obviously as well. So we've got the knife, we've got the handles, we've got the kit inside. Let me talk about the sheaths, and I'm also going to give you the details as far as the steel in the knife, the size, blade thickness, all that type of stuff as well. There are literally so many options for this thing. So with a knife, you're going to get your basic Kydex sheath. So simple Kydex, that's your attachment point in the back. Basic, that's what you get with it. Now you can also upgrade to the ballistic nylon, which when you pop off that clip, you can actually slide your knife that's all covered up there into the ballistic nylon sheath. And then you have different ways to set it up as far as your carrying system. So it can be a dangler, it can be right off your belt, however you want to set that up. So now additionally to these ones, you have a more kind of sophisticated Kydex option. Now this is not the one that they're actually making right now, but just to give you a sense of what it's going to look like, this is your piggyback system with the knife, and then here's the mini MSK-1. There's your fire steel. On the back you can see the blade tech lock. And yeah, so they had one company making it. I think they're working with another company now to make the Kydex option. But yeah, so if you want Kydex, you got it. If you want ballistic nylon, you got it. If you want both, you got it. If you want basic, you got it. So I mean, lots of ways to set this up as a modular system that works for you. Now, in addition to everything I've shown you so far, you can also get a Theorem cell vault, and if you look up there on the top, you can see the Theorem logo. And Theorem's a company I've worked with personally in the past, so they make a very cool lighter. They make the Costolutus switchback, I believe it's called, and it's basically an attachment for a light, so you can deploy a light with a pistol as well. They've got the cell vault in different sizes, but basically this is a way to carry survival gear or batteries, whatever you want, in your system. So you're basically gonna run it through the ballistic nylon, you know, as many loops as you want, and then it closes down like this, and now you're carrying gear in this. If you want to hear more about this, you can check out my video of the Tops Operator 7, and I've got a whole system built by Black Bear Custom Kydex. Micah over there made a great system for me with some cell vaults included to carry gear in that. So again, as you can see, just a ton of options, and I'm giving you the overview here. The best thing to do is once you make a decision if you want to purchase this is to click on the link below. That'll take you over to all the information about the MSK-1, and then you can build it as you want. If you got questions, you can email David and ask him, you know what his recommendations are based on the different uses you might have for the knife. All right, so you saw the tinder. We're actually gonna make a fire in a minute, but let me just mention, here's a fire steel. That's what it looks like. It's small, it's a smaller fire steel, it's not one of the huge beefy ones, and it's made to be the right diameter to use with that. I don't know if you can see right there, there's a little flame, and this is where you're gonna strike your fire steel to get a spark. So that being said, you're not gonna do that up on the top of the knife on the spine. This is jimping, but it's quite smooth, which is nice for me because it's not beating my hand up. Could it be more aggressive? I guess, but I'd prefer to, I'm always leaning toward less jimping as opposed to more jimping. That's my preference. There's nothing here on the top that you can use to strike it with. It's just too smooth. And even here, I can tell as I touch it right there on the swedge, same thing. So one thing I want to mention about the knife is that, you know, on your average knife, you got the tip here and then the blade sweeps down like this. So this is much more centered so that, you know, if you're making a bow drill divot, it's centered so that you can spin it more easily. Essentially is, you know, just another advantage of having a center line. It just makes making those types of divots a little bit easier. So that being said, let's try to strike this thing and see how it works. There you go. So I had to scrape a little bit of the coating off, but definitely does the job. And yeah, let's go make a fire now, shall we? All right, so I made some more feathers with the MSK-1. I broke up some wood a little bit. I'm doing it on top of this wood just to get it up off the dampness. Got some small twigs there. And then here is the fire starter slash topical antiseptic. So I'm gonna use the fire steel here, see if I can hit that with a spark and get a tiny little fire started. There's that, see if that'll burn. There we go. So what I'm going to do here is roll in on the bottom the details of the MSK-1 as far as, you know, width, size, length, all that type of stuff. Here's what I can tell you about this knife is that the first thing is that it's about a preference thing for any knife, and that's true with this as well. So it definitely has a different look and it feels different in the hand. It feels kind of stout to me is the word I would use for it. Despite the fact that it's a big knife, still stout would be the word I would use. So that's a preference thing. Functionally, it worked great. It did everything I tried with it. The idea is, again, multi-scenario knife. So if you had to chop, does it chop? Yep. If you want to carve, can it carve? Yep. If you want to do some feather sticking, yes. If you want to choke up on it, you can do that. If you want to choke back on it, again, for that chopping purpose, you can do that as well. So lots of different ways you can use the knife. This kind of leads into the whole one tool option discussion. Do people believe in that, not believe in that? I've got a video coming in the future about my favorite one tool options and why they fit into that. This to me is knife starting to move toward one tool option. But you know, this is not the equivalent of a hung list. This isn't the equivalent of the Tops Bushcraft Kukri, which both of those are like leaning toward a one tool option for me. Now, all that being said, the key to this thing is if you like it, you like the style, you like the look of it, you like D2. Again, that's like a preference thing. Some people are like, I can't stand D2, I want S35VN. You're gonna pay more for that. Other people are like, no, give me something in the 440 family that's easier, 1095. Preferences, obviously, across the board. But the key, if you say, I see this knife and I like that knife and I want that knife, then the key would be customize your kit the way it's going to work for you. And my guess is because it's the people who buy it already like it, they like the style of it, they like the ideas, the concepts, the D2, the survival handle or the survival kit in the handle, all that stuff. And so they're already down the road saying, yeah, I already have a preference, that knife fits the preference, that's why I'm choosing to buy it. So I think the major win of this is system or kit or the customizability. Is that a word? Today it is. That you can customize it however you want. There is also the smaller MSK, the MSK Mini, which David wears as a neck knife, but you can use this and that as a nice kind of large knife, small knife system. I will tell you that my favorite thing about that knife is that the way David wrapped the paracord, and you can learn to do it. He's got ways to, he's explained how to do it, I think, in a video. It's thicker. Sometimes you get a paracord handle that's really thin and it's like, okay, it's better than having nothing, but it's too thin. With the mini MSK, wrap really feels nice in the hand as you're holding it. You got good control of it. All right, so price point is going to be $300 and up. So it is absolutely an investment. It's not something you're just going to pick up on the weekend. Well, maybe for you, you're going to pick it up on the weekend because you got all that money floating around. For the vast majority of people I know, that's an investment. They're saying, I want this knife. I'm going to invest in the knife. This is going to be a go-to knife for me. I want to take some time to address the controversy around this knife. So, is it the knife for you? Is it a one-tool option? Is it the best survival knife out there? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of preference things you got to think through. The investment of the money, the type of steel, the style, the size, all those different types of things. I would say, you know, the answer to all the controversy out there about this knife would be this. If you don't like it, then don't buy it. Thanks as always for checking out the videos here on YouTube. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, Tumblr, and Vero as well. More videos coming soon. Take care.